Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome into episode number 22 of the Ask Level podcast with the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Level. I'm Chois Woodman. Glad that you've chosen to make us part of your week. However, wherever you may be listening, it may not be the greatest week if you're a Texas Tech basketball fan. We'll spend some time in that, touch on some Texas Tech football players individually, former and current. But Chris Level, how are we doing this week?
Well, I'm doing fine. Yeah,
okay,
I'm doing fine. I obviously like most would wish they would not be in last place in the Big 12 in men's basketball right now. That's been tough. To endure after it just seems like this happened just really, really fast. Just like
Sure.
To be Sweet 16 and then you're kind of ranked in the top 25 and now you've kind of you're just in last place in the Big 12. I don't know any other way else to say it. But other than that, I'm doing okay. But it makes it hard. I mean, you're when you broadcast for teams that go through this, and I've been through this before with this program, and I hope it doesn't return to those days like consistently, because that was not a fun time,
Right.
Because of what we've seen this program achieve. But it's hard, man. People are stressed. People are trying. They're searching. They're trying to figure out: do we stick with what we've been doing? Do we change this? Players are questioning everything. Coaches are questioning. It's just hard. And then you're showing up, at least on the road, in front of sold out crowds, and it's just again. It's because it's back-to-back Saturdays where you've played close games,
right?
Semi-close, I should say, in front of sellout crowds, and you haven't just melted. But in fact, I guess every game except for the TCU game, you've dealt with capacity crowd, because Ames was this way as well. TCU on New Year's Eve was a Tech. Lot of Tech fans there. But anyways, it's just, but it makes it hard on everybody. And it sucks losing.
I think one of the things, Level, that makes it harder is if it would have been a team that was, if it's college basketball, maybe even 10 years ago, where you don't use the transfer portal like you do. If it's a team where you lose just a ton of seniors, you're like, okay, we're anticipating a rebuild year. You can kind of brace yourself for that. But you got a team with a ton of talent, and people keep saying that outside of Lubbock, Texas. Like, man, look at this team and how much talent there is individually, but they just can't find a way to put it together. And that's what's so maddening. And games like we saw on Saturday, where they give you hope. You can try to go into the game just like, okay, no expectations. We're going to expect not to win. You kind of try to set yourself up where you don't get your hopes up, and then they have such a good first half in the game and they play so well. And we've seen that so much in this league where they play good basketball for stretches and then it dissipates. So that's what's hard to watch, is that you see it for moments. You see the potential there for moments of what could be, yet you're sitting here 0-7 right now.
Yeah. And I don't want to disagree with people that say you're talented. There is talent on this basketball team. However, I think that's been overstated quite a bit by a lot of folks. And here's where I would come at that from. It's a true statement. However, when you compare it to the other 9 teams or the other 7 or 8 teams,
fair enough.
They're not very talented. That they don't have an NBA guy on their team right now. They don't have anything really close to it. And, I think Keontae Johnson is an NBA guy that they just faced. I think they faced 3 from Baylor earlier in the week. I think Mike Miles at TCU is going to be that. Texas has got a variety of. So, I mean, it's not it's not their fault per se, but your guards just aren't as good as the guards on these better teams, are not playing to that level. And it's a lot to ask. I get it, but that's how I would answer that. And you can, if you do have talent, then you say, well, they're not being coached correctly or not being put in the right position. And there's probably some of that too. And in fact, I think Mark and his staff are still searching for the right buttons to push on how to use Fardaws and what's the best way to do it. But anyway, the league is not helping with those answers because the league is really, really difficult.
Right.
Yeah. The game over the weekend, it's a 50-50 game. Like it wasn't 50-50 proposition. No, that was the score. It was 50-50 with 7:27 left.
Yeah.
And they would go on. I think they outscored you 18-8 from that point on in the game. And so you just don't have a closer on your team. That's why, the talent, this and that, you can talk about it. There is no Keenan Evans. There's no Jarrett Culver. There's no Bryson Williams. There's nobody that you throw the ball to. And, your starting point guard, Davion Harmon, had 1 assist in this game versus Kansas State. That's just not, he scores 13 points, but it's you don't have anybody on your team that makes life easier for everybody else. Okay. And that's what some of these NBA or elite level guards in this league, they kind of widen it for everybody because they either stop a run, start one of your own, or they can be a closer of sorts. They can get you or get to the free throw line, things like that. Whenever you're struggling, like we've seen some of these great players that I talked about in your recent stretch of, even like a guy like Jamias Ramsey, who was an NBA guy. He was kind of your dude for that 1 year.
Sure.
So I just don't know if you have that guy. I mean, look at, for example. Let's see here. Marquise Noel. He plays 36 minutes. The dude is 5'8".
Yep.
5'8", 160. He has 23 points, 5 assists, 8 rebounds.
Yep.
8. So, I mean, you just look at what some of the guards in this league are doing, and it's just frustrating because yours. And then O'Banner, that's a whole separate story. I thought he may be your closer. I think you went to him. He had open looks. He just had a day to forget in Manhattan. Just no other way around it. 0 for 5 from the free throw line.
Ouch.
1 of 6 from 3, 4 of 12. And again, he's diving on the floor. He's trying to take charges. He's trying to do – the shots just wouldn't fall. And that's kind of who everybody thought your quote-unquote closer would be. He's your best free throw shooter on paper, or he was. Pop is now, but it's just like head scratching.
Just feels like this team has found a way to lose basketball games in so many different ways, whether it's free throws, whether it's a big player not being able to hit shots. When you watch all these other good teams in the Big 12, and you've faced a lot of them so far, they just knock down shots in big moments. I mean, good teams, but good players make plays in big moments, and you're just lacking that. When there's people that can stop runs for other teams that can stop the bleeding.
Playmaking. You lack playmaking,
and that's just as simply put as it is. Basketball IQ seems to be lower than it should be. I mean, how do you have 2 separate 5-second calls out of bounds in a game?
Yeah. Those seem like in slow motion too.
They
it's
do.
Like there's not a lot of movement, and that last year. I hate to always do this, but last year it just seemed like you scored 6 to 8 points on those in games, and when you looked at the end of the game, it's like these are all 1 or 2, 3 possession types, and those can be the difference in the game. And right now, it looks like you're just struggling to get the ball in bounds at times, much less try to score. Now, there was an and one opportunity for Kevin O'Banner early in the game, but other than that, 2 of them are turnovers, and the other ones you're just throwing the ball, to half court, just trying to get it in. So that is well said. Here's my question for you. Here's what I would ask. Because this week they can go 2-0. And it's not that much of a stretch. You play the 9th place team in the Big 12, West Virginia, at home. Then I think that people probably haven't been paying attention, but you play LSU in Baton Rouge. I don't think there's going to be anybody there hardly.
Yeah.
But they have lost either 6 or 7 games in a row. And so they've kind of started out the league like you have.
Pretty well, yeah.
Yeah, and they play Arkansas the middle of this week, but they're going to be a heavy underdog. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that you can go 2-0 this week. And if you do, all of a sudden the sun shines a little bit brighter. You start to feel better about yourself. Maybe you kind of get a little confidence and some things like that. But my question was, if it doesn't happen this week, I just don't see it happening. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, that was one of our questions from the audience. Andrew asked, when will we win a game? And I think it's got to be Tuesday. I mean, or Saturday.
Wednesday.
I'm sorry, Wednesday.
Yeah,
pardon me.
Yeah.
Sorry, Wednesday. We're so used to playing every game on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday or Saturday. If you're not winning one of those, I agree. It just feels like it's going to crumble at some point. There's still fight left in this team. You could tell they're still fighting. They still want it. But at some point, you're gonna find that point where the fight just runs out if you can't
get a result.
One of these, yeah.
So. I don't disagree because Kansas State is really good. I mean, there's 10,000 people there. They're first place team in the Big 12. I mean, you've kind of seen the upper echelon, and that also hasn't helped because if you look at the top half of the standings, I mean, you should have beaten Oklahoma. If you don't get hosed on a call at the end and your guys get hurt, you beat Oklahoma. I say that 10 out of 10 times.
The end of the Kansas game, right?
Kansas game, sorry. Yeah. But it cost you the Oklahoma game.
Right. I get it. Yeah.
And so, but you've seen Kansas, you've seen Kansas State, you've seen TCU, you've seen Baylor, you've seen Texas. This is the sweet spot and you've seen Iowa State. So you haven't played Oklahoma State yet. You haven't played West Virginia yet. There's 4 games amongst those 2. You get some of these teams I just mentioned in the top half. You get them at home. But if you get a little traction, this week, maybe you can build on it a little bit. But you got to start somewhere. You've got to get one before anything can happen. And if they'll just keep kind of believing and fighting and all that, because defensively is where it was pretty good against Kansas State. That's where I was kind of impressed, and they gave up some threes and things, but they really clogged the paint, and that's where Kansas State really hammers you. They attacked the rim, and I thought Keontae Johnson he got his double digits, but he really grinded for it, and it wasn't until the very end they really kind of shut him down for the most part. But that's how good some of these players are. You do everything you can to stop them specifically, and they still are good enough to get theirs.
That was probably the best defensive game you played in conference play up to this point. Do you say that?
Well, it's up there, and I think Mark's trying to. And again, this is what we've all been. You just need to play to your identity, and right now you don't really have one, and this is your backbone of your program, and so and it's hard, man, because Fardaws he's not quick enough out there on the perimeter when you switch off on everything to be guarded. He's just really big.
Yeah.
And he kind of fouls Marquise Noel yesterday or over the weekend, whenever it was, when he hits him on a 3-point attempt and gives him 3 free throws because he just can't help it. Cause he's like, I'm not quick enough to stay in front of him. So I'm just going to, hammer down on him. And it ended up being a 3 free throws. So, anyway, but it's just frustrating right now. I don't like losing. Nobody does. It's embarrassing. There's no way this program should be last place in the Big 12.
Correct.
You're not quite at the turn yet, but you're getting close. You're going to get a bit of a break this weekend because you have the SEC Challenge, which will be the last one of its kind. And, there you go.
All right. A couple more basketball questions from the audience, and we'll move on to a couple other topics. Kelly asks, why do you think Adams didn't go after transfers with length and size of last year's squad? The defense seems to run so much better last year because of the team was so athletic and long at every position.
Yeah, I've asked myself this a lot. I don't know what the thought process was last summer. I think that the results you're seeing now is a direct result of decisions you made at some level last summer. And again, so we're clear. I think they were in on plenty of players. I think that, NIL factors into it. I think if you take, hey, this guy's connected to this guy, but if we take this guy, those guys aren't coming. There's all kinds of domino effect too that nobody really knows, and players are connected and all that. But yeah, at face value, the general fan doesn't care about that. I think that I'd be willing to bet that maybe he would do it over again if asked, but I think they felt like they struggled so much on offense at times last year and just weren't near a threat on offense, like from deep, and had no perimeter threats, that they just overcompensated and really just tried to recruit shooting. And you almost wonder if, like, okay, I'll teach them how to play defense, but if they can shoot, then that's what we need. And so you've got some shooters on this current team, but you also have given up a lot defensively. I mean, if asked, I'd much rather be the grinded out, group like you had last year. If you've got, and it's that was such a unique team because of Bryson Williams and things like that. But there's so much length and size and all those things. But yeah, I think they just overcompensated for shooting.
Well, and you can already look to next year's class, if you want to call it that. He's, I believe, on campus already. And Kyron Lindsey, he's more of that positionless, big, lengthy guy, right? I mean, the guy that you bring in from Georgia.
Yes, but younger. And that's the
just by body type, he's
young and still immature to the he was a freshman this year at Georgia, and and I say immature, it's just you haven't grown up in this league yet and all those things, whereas those guys last year, man, it's just like these were 24-year-old men, and so Kyron Lindsey he's got the measurables, but he's still younger, so you're going to have to live with some of the mistakes and all those kinds of things. But anyway.
This question from Sam says, how big of a factor was Barrett Peary last year? And or is it just the offensive players this year that are struggling?
Oh, I think Coach Peary was heavily influenced last year's team. I think he's doing great at UNLV this year. They've got some injuries at UNLV. He's doing great, but Steve Green and Al Pinkins both more than capable. They're guys that know. I mean, Al's been here already in one stint as an assistant. Does a great job as associate head coach and all that. Currently, can really recruit. I mean, he's Kyron Lindsey, kind of his connection. So I'm clear. And then Steve Green is just Coach Green is older. Okay, he would tell you he's on the tail end of his career. He's in his late 60s. I believe that's right, but he knows a ton of offense and all those things. But yeah, I mean, there's some dynamics that I hate to like point to. It's like it's not the player's fault. You almost just wonder who was deciding. How did you come about on the decisions? Let's go get this guy instead of this guy, because North Shadow Amir from Arkansas State, he was in on a visit this past summer. I think at the same time that Fardaws Amack was. Okay. Yeah. You probably don't even know this name, do you?
North Shadow Mir. I remember you talking about him. So, where's he from again?
Well, he came from Arkansas State.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I do remember you talking about him in the summer.
So he was on a visit, I think about the same time that Fardaws Amack was. And it's pretty apparent that they chose Fardaws or whatever. And I think a lot of people would have agreed with that, like that we're covering this stuff. But you look back at it and Fardaws has been hurt.
Yeah.
He's just trying to work his way back in. Norshad is at University of Miami playing with Nigel Pack.
Yeah.
Averaging 14 and 10. I mean, Norshad over the weekend. You played against him last year at Arkansas State. I mean, he's a freak athlete. It's just things like that. And so is that a coin flip? And it's like it just landed on tails that time, where some of the others landed on heads. I don't know. It's tricky trying to put it together. I will say this. I think they will take a hard look at their team and make some different decisions or the way they go about it. into this offseason whenever it does get here, because it is fundamentally flawed right now, like their roster is. And we can talk about some of the talent on there, and I don't disagree with that. But it's at some point, it's not where it needs to be in this league. That's what changes the dynamic. It's just not quite good enough in this league. And
right.
I don't know if all of your pieces will stick with you. I don't know if you want all of your pieces to stick with you. That's just kind of how the sport goes. But that'll play out over the next 6 weeks. But to answer the question, I don't know why you other than just trying to, add some shooting to it,
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to a little football. These kind of things are side conversations, but we see Tyler Shough on a Heisman list this week, and this is a Vegas Heisman list. It's
barely,
down,
he was
down towards the bottom.
Barely. Yeah, that's right.
I believe 100-1 odds. Is that what I saw? I believe 100-1 odds is where Vegas has Shough. But hey, that's a step in the right direction, because you haven't had a quarterback on a Heisman list in quite a while. So this shows the direction. This is just kind of more affirmation or confirmation, like we were talking about a couple of weeks ago with people putting you in your way too early top 25s. It's just a affirmation of your program moving in the right direction.
I agree. I don't think the Heisman is in Tyler Shough's future per se. I don't know if he would ever put up the numbers that would be needed, or that you would win enough games to be needed. I wouldn't just totally rule it out, but I think it is a sign, because this is a Vegas deal. They don't care. They're not playing favorites, or that they're just looking at the data and all that. And I did think it was interesting that there was only of the list that I saw, there's only 4 Big 12 players listed, and Dylan Gabriel was one. And then you had the 2 quarterbacks from Texas being on there, and Quinn Ewers and then Arch Manning, which, that one will eat up the other, however that plays out. But it is nice when your quarterback is on there, because there is some expectations, and some hope that that's a big reason why you should be successful next year, or this coming season. And we're still waiting on that schedule, though. Still waiting.
Yeah. Could be a release this week. Could be released by the time you listen to this. Could be another 2 weeks. We have. I mean, the things we've heard from the people that are supposed to be in the know have just keep changing all the time with that schedule. So,
well, it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be this past week. Yeah, that's what it was originally. But it wasn't. But I can. Here's what I can guarantee you: it will be out by February the 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to.
Heard it here first.
Yeah, it has to be. I believe it's in part of some sort of contract with the conference and the TV partners that it has to be released by, February the 1st. So you've got about 8 to 9 days left to wait. And I mean, Texas Tech was like most schools. They just went ahead and said, you know what, screw it. We're going to just start trying to sell season tickets this past week. Hey, we got 6 home games. We know we're playing Oregon, the home opener. We don't know anything else, but send us your money. That's and
it's good timing right now, because there's a lot of people that will do that for Texas Tech. That's right. Might as well jump in. Just branching off of the Tyler Shough Heisman thing, where do we see? I know there's whispers and rumors and this sort of thing, but what's the status currently of Baron Morton? Is this feel good that you can still hold on to Baron Morton, or is this a revisit the conversation after spring?
Yeah, it's the latter. On really, I think your roster is now intact until early this week. If somebody snuck into the portal, I say snuck, they wouldn't have snuck in. People would know. Right. If anybody entered the portal midweek last week, there's that 48-hour window. And their names could surface early this week or whatever. But if you don't hear anything, then it's locked. I mean, your roster is you've got it until the May the 1st. I mean, I had heard rumors late even into that window closing, that Jerron Bradley was still, or people around him were considering it.
Sure.
But I don't know. I think he's happy here. But there's some dynamics at play there. So, I think, your quarter, because nobody can get in now, no matter what you do, until May the 1st, and then it's only until May the 15th when it shuts down. So, be a busy kind of time at that point, based on what a lot of people want to do. And if you get in the springtime, there's not just a lot of time to okay, I'm going to get in the portal and then I'm going to, go visit this or that. I mean, there's a small window there.
And other Texas Tech player that's no longer going to be on the roster because he's moved on to NFL pastures, Tyree Wilson. And it looks like every single draft board you look at, he's nowadays, and this wasn't this way originally, but is top 10, maybe even top 5 pick.
Well, you're starting to see, I find it humorous, because I think there were some people that just didn't really believe that or buy into it. I do think that it hasn't been widely reported on with his foot injury. I don't know if that is if that is well known in those circles, or it's yet to come to light. I think he is somebody that went and saw one of the NFL teams, one of the best doctors as it relates to his particular foot injury. And I think he'd actually had the same injury before. I think he's going to be fine. So I guess my point is, I don't know whether this is not even really a factor in the way he's being mocked in these mock drafts, or if it just hasn't come to light yet. But bottom line is, you get the sense, what we all knew, the dude is an absolute monster. Yeah. And you're talking 5th, 6th pick in the draft in some of these mock drafts. And so we're clear, when you talk about a mock draft, you have to understand these are typically scouts and media types that talk to each other. These aren't quote unquote decision makers for NFL franchises. So these aren't the people that are actually making the decisions on who to pick and why, and the business of the NFL in mind, and the business of running a team in mind, and trading and all this business. This is just the scouts' opinion. But I know Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network, who is widely respected in this space, had him, I think, 5th or 6th. Maybe it was to the Seahawks, I think, that I saw. But either way, it's heavy praise. Yeah, because you get mocked in that range. I mean, it almost, you'd be shocked to see them fall out of the first round unless something comes up that we just don't know about. But anyway, it's I can't be more excited for him.
Yeah, so cool to see, and man, he's going to be fun to watch on Sundays very soon. 2 more questions. Level, one of them basketball-ish. It starts with what are the odds that we can see the Pinkins kid? No, he's just a sophomore at Friendship, but that he could end up at Texas Tech.
Yeah, I mean, if Al is here, I feel really good about that. Obviously, I think Al's, a lot of their ties, I think they've heard from the Marylands and the Florida States, and there's a bunch of East Coast kind of ACC type schools, that had been staying in contact with Al. Obviously, he spent a lot of time at University of Florida, and there's a lot of people that saw Patton play down there. But no, I've watched him play several times. My kid actually played against him years ago in some youth stuff here in their first stint, and he's just he's smooth and 3-level scorer, and he he just got a real good IQ. He's a coach's kid. I mean, that's the best way to say it. Yeah,
coach's kid.
Yeah.
Al
scored 1,000 points in his prep career.
That's crazy, and he's not through his sophomore season. I'll say the one player, and that I've seen at the high school level in West Texas that he would compare to is Jarrett Culver. Just this same 3-level type of scorer, very impressive type of player, and can put a team on his back when he needs to. So would love to see him at Texas Tech, but he's just a sophomore. This last question from I'm trying to get the name for you here. This one from Drew. Hey, Level, who's your pick to win the Royal Rumble?
I don't know who's in it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know, there's always surprise entries and all
Yeah.
those things. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, without knowing who all the entrants are, I'm trying to think of who they would want to headline with, because typically that is somebody. It'll either be I don't think Roman Reigns is in it, but maybe Sami Zayn might be in it. And if so, I would say he's got a good chance to win, because they're setting up something for WrestleMania. I would bet it's one of those two guys, actually. They may not both be in it, but if either one of them is in it, I bet one of them wins.
When I hear you talk wrestling level, not judging, but when I hear you, it's like you're speaking Spanish to me. I'm hearing these names. I'm like, oh, Roman Reigns. I know that word. It's it's like just getting a little bit of Spanish that I know. It's the same with wrestling. But hey, okay. You're the man. You know it.
Yeah. Hey, so do the people, man.
The people.
You got to play to the audience sometimes, man. You need to know your audience better, Woodman.
And you've been to WrestleMania multiple times, right?
Yeah, both times it's been at AT&T Stadium. I've been. Yeah, it's a scene. It's like
so. If you're not a wrestling fan, worth it to go, like just to experience it.
Oh, I mean, it's like nothing I can explain. And I've been to Final Fours before as a broadcaster and as a fan. I've been to big time football games before. I've been to
the Masters.
Where I've been to World Series before, the Masters multiple times. Yeah, I've seen a lot. I've been to the NBA Finals before. And that whole deal is just it's a scene now. I don't even know any other way to explain it, but I would highly encourage just to experience it one time if it's ever close to you.
All right, last one for you from me. You a fan of snow? Because we might get some this week, depending when you listen to this.
Well, I just left it over the weekend in Kansas. I was kind of afraid that wasn't going to get back here over the weekend, and so thankfully that dodged that, because anytime it's like, hey, we can't take off yet, we got to de-ice the wings and all this business, you're just like, oh man, this is stressing me out. But no, it was like snowing sideways, and I think it's probably part of the same kind of. I don't mind it in moderation. I think it just makes everything dirty. It's kind of a pain. There's times where it's real peaceful and the powdery snow. I just don't like the
slushy
ice
stuff.
Yeah, the ice and the slushy stuff that comes with it. It just makes everything filthy.
Chris, have a great week. I would love to sit here and talk a 2-0 week next week if you want to drub that up however you can.
Choice, let's do it, man. Let's do it. Let's drub it up. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, man, we'll keep grinding, keep trying to make these podcasts entertaining. And it sucks as a Red Raider and alum and seeing kind of where this program has been, to see it struggling. But you just got to keep fighting. You have one of two choices. You can either keep fighting or give in, and it's like, and you just can't give in. You just can't, as a fan, as a whatever. And it's fair to criticize and the reasons why and all these things. That just comes with the territory. But you got to keep grinding, because it's hard to get it back once you ultimately lose when a program's rolling. It is hard, as hard as it was to get it to this level. You just don't want to see it dip, and so you got to keep fighting to remain relevant.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, have a great week, brother.
Keep hope alive, man. You too.
That's Chris Level. I'm Chois Woodman. You've been tuned in to the Ask Level podcast, brought to you by Double T 97.3.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3. For more from Lubbock Sports Station, go to doublet973.com.